Cuomh Galera Cordia August Thofoilter Road. Welcome to Be My Guest with me, Mary Honan, on Lear Media TV, supporting the Samaritans, Limerick and Tipperary, Clare's Wish Foundation, Limerick, and Deal Animal Rescue in West Limerick. And we have a Limerick woman here with us today, albeit she's via Missouri in the United States, Helen Gannon. Hello, Helen.
Dear great, Mary. Dear
How
great.
It's a long time. It's a few years now since I interviewed you while we were parked in your car at the side of Den City for radio.
Well, those are the best places to have a good chat, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Chinwag, I never thought I'd be sitting in a passenger seat of a car with a microphone stuck up against somebody's face, but it went really well. How are you, Helen?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. We haven't been home now for 2 years because of COVID. And we my fair Kayla 90 on Monday.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
He was 90 last Monday. So we're not going to chance it, I think, this year.
For anyone who doesn't speak Irish, that's her husband is 90. Oh my God, it's hard to believe.
But he's well, and we're doing well. And 3 of our children are fairly local. Yes.
Oh, that's handy, Helen. But you know, you're so sprightly yourself, and you're so involved in the. It must be hard for you with COVID now, not to be as active as you were, because you're very involved in
classes on Zoom.
Mm.
So we've suffered a lot this year, of course, because we couldn't use our building since March. So that has been stressful for us. But we have wonderful teachers. And you know that my focus is not just dancing, but
music.
And I'm delighted to have the opportunity today to discuss that with you, because it's a little ache for me. Yes.
Is it?
Music isn't being nurtured in the dance world quite as much as it should be.
Yes. I was talking to Cormac O'Shea the other day.
Oh, he's wonderful.
And
Yes.
Cormac set up, as you know, he set up
School. Yes.
Yes, a school and a foundation and that. And he teaches, and we were talking about how important it is and how easy it is almost to actually teach music and teach Irish online. He said the Irish classes are going very well. And so are the music classes, but I wonder how difficult it is, and I said it to Cormac, how difficult it is, especially with the pause that sometimes you get between what you play and what is heard. There's that bit of a delay, especially with Zoom. It's not as easy. I don't imagine it's as easy to nurture the music side online as it is certainly with the language.
Well, certainly, but I think without Comhaltas Ceoltóirí and Mary, we would never be where we are today. No. And it's a pity that the marriage between Comhaltas and the Commission isn't in better nick, if you like.
Yeah.
So we have had amazing success by taking every child in and giving them a tin whistle, and they go on from there. Mm. Every child gets a tin whistle.
Where did your love of Comhaltas, your love of everything Irish? I know you were born in Ireland, and wasn't it Laguerre's you went to?
Mrs. Laguerre and Bridget Dalton.
And Bridget Dalton, yeah.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh, Brian Hanrahan, their nephew, or Brida's nephew, is on Facebook with me. He's a hotel manager now. They had bought the Castle Oaks Hotel many years ago, his dad, but Brian used to dance with me, but he was obviously dancing for Brida, and
right.
Yeah. But great school.
When we came to America, we were shocked at the lack of traditional music. Mm. And was in 1971 that the first Coltus tour came through to St. Louis. And the audience were not at all enraptured with the concert because they were expecting When Irish Eyes Are Smiling and Molly Malone. And so it was a bit of a flop, if you like. And we were ecstatic about it.
Of course.
And we had a concert every year after that, and we grew, and we're now the largest branch in North America. And
is it St. Louis or St. Louis?
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Louis, I suppose, would be grammatically correct if you wanted to use the French connection. It's a French settlement.
French settlement, yes.
St. Louis is really and Missouri, not Missouri.
Missouri, yeah. I would say Missouri. No, it's just, I constantly hear people from America pronouncing Prince Louis's name in England as Prince Louis. And I keep saying, and I'm shouting at the television and I'm saying it's Louis because that's the way they pronounce it as well.
For a person, but
Yeah.
St. Louis is the correct name for the town. And the population here for your audience is, for the state of Missouri, the population is about 3.5 million for St. Louis itself.
It's almost bigger than Ireland.
Oh, it's bigger than Ireland just for the city. And the state of Missouri, whenever I teach the children, I tell them that you can fit Ireland 3 times into the state of Missouri.
Limerick would only be, well, wouldn't even be a region in
It'd be a village.
We consider ourselves cosmopolitan, and
I know. But it's when PJ got the offer to do the research project here in St. Louis, we had never been to America. We had only seen movies, and we had no idea. But it turned out to be a lovely city to bring up the children in. And of course, we tried to go home. We were only coming for a year, and that was in 1967.
But it's a very carnival-esque vibe to Missouri. And, I'd say it's almost like a city that doesn't sleep, almost like New York. There's always something creative going on. It's the perfect place to be a creative soul.
Oh, lovely. We're a very cultural city, and we have our own orchestra. We have our own museum of art. We have many, many great things. We have the largest open air opera in the world, which goes on during the summertime.
I'd love to see that. Oh gosh.
Well, you'd be more than welcome, Mary.
Jeepers, that would just, I think that's what a lot of places are lacking, is this infusion of multicultural performances, because that is the one way that you can break down barriers, cultural and ethnic barriers, is through dance and through music and through understanding. When I used to go away with Bonratti, we'd go away to the Semaine Mondiale in Paris, and you'd have people from every country in the world performing. And it gives healthy awareness.
My daughter had the privilege of being the harpist at Bonratti while she was doing her master's. So
Right.
You were not singing there at that time. Weren't you singing, or were you dancing?
I was the dancer there.
Oh,
And but I sang as well, but not I never had confidence to push myself with the singing, whereas with dancing, when you're brought up with it from 4 years of age, and you can dance, and it's just second nature to you. Dancing was different. People say to you, well, how could you dance, go up on a stage and dance, but you can't go up and sing?
Oh, right.
And,
My cousin Hugh Connolly, who played the fiddle there.
It's Hughie, your cousin.
Yeah.
Oh, Hughie's on Facebook with me. Yeah.
Oh,
He was a great fiddler.
right.
Great fiddler.
He has a son now that's doing very well at traditional music and has entered the Flat Keoll several times.
I didn't know Huey was related to you now.
Yeah.
I must tag him now on this
Right.
video when it's up.
Okay. That'll be great. Yeah.
But we'll start at the beginning for Helen Gannon. Helen Gannon, the Limerick woman who went to all things Irish dancing here in with Mrs. Laguerre and with the Daltons. How did you start down the process of Irish dancing? Was it natural for you to go?
Well, Mary, as you probably, I'm a lot older than you are, but in my time, you got maybe one extracurricular activity, and my sister got the piano, I got the dancing, and it was a bit like that. And Mrs. Laguerre was very ambitious, and she'd have, I remember singing in the Savoy and doing a Christmas show, and I remember getting my first medal for smiling. I never took the grin off my face.
I remember you saying that to me. You got it smiling.
You know, looking back on my life, little did I think that after I became a nurse and a midwife and all the rest of it, and eventually a dance teacher, that little part of what my mother gave me turned out to be a really something I could hold on to.
Well, it turned out to be your whole life.
It did. And I often think back, and you never know when you expose the children to anything, what will catch with them. And I was very fortunate that my mother did that for me.
My grandmother they were Welsh, and they were Welsh Methodists, and they were into choirs and singing and music, and they were to send a piano, and there was an accordion, and there was an organ, and everything was to be sent from England for me to learn. All I wanted was dancing. And the only reason I got to dancing was because one particular day an older girl came up and said, "Mrs. Honan, can I take Mary?" And she was so annoyed with me that day because I was getting in her way. She just said, "Oh, for God's sake, just go." And I went to dancing, and to Breed a Gory, and that was the very first time. And it's like you, it's been a
real link for me. I remember Margie Dennehy, when Michael Flatley, his first lesson, he was only 11 years old, and she saw something in him in that very first, when his mother, Elizabeth, brought him over to the Dennehy's. And look what had happened for him, and look at the high profile he has brought to Irish dancing.
At what stage did you, it's very, very true. I mean, we all knew that Irish dancing was phenomenal. It was our life ever before Riverdance. But Michael Flatley brought it onto a whole new audience. And it's kind of like what I said in the Irish Dancing magazine there a while back, when I was asked what would I change about Irish dancing. I would change, and I would put more emphasis on advertising and promotion, and getting onto TV, having part, if not all, of the World Championships televised, but certainly putting out posters and advertisements and encouraging non-dancers to come into competitions, pay their entry fee and watch it, because that's the only way our classes are going to increase.
Absolutely right, Mary, because we tried, after our branch was initiated, we tried to have a tin whistle class, and we got maybe for 15 years we tried to do just the music, and it didn't work.
Yeah,
it didn't work. It requires a lot more commitment. And then when we offered the dancing, we flourished.
yeah.
And in many ways, and when Michael stayed with me, he was an absolute, while the others would be fooling around, he'd be practicing.
Very driven.
He was dedicated.
Yeah, you can see that. You can see that. Actually, I danced. He was a few years older, I think 2 years older, but I remember him at the World Championships dancing. Funny, the year he won. But But the thing about it is he brought it to a completely different, a world audience that had never seen Irish dancing before.
Well,
And that's how you encourage, that's how you promote and build our schools, not by keeping it insular, in my
right.
view.
I had an issue with him because I was so traditional that
Yeah.
I wanted them to wear the shoes with the nails and the
Oh,
toes nails.
Helen.
And I said, "You're ruining our dance, Michael." And of course, he brought it way beyond what we thought was achievable. I mean, if you look at the worlds today, it's totally amazing the level and the high profile that dancing has, Irish
I
dancing
don't
has.
know. I mean, I remember the nails on the shoes. Oh, mother of God! And when I'm only 4'10" now,
That's
and
right.
I was tiny. I was always the smallest in every competition, and you're trying to lug around these and bring them to shoe repairs to get nails put into them. Thankfully,
Oh, and grind them down.
those before they went into the fiberglass.
I remember my father grinding them down on a grinder. And then
Oh,
the Coltus concert came, and we had this beautiful auditorium, and sure didn't we tear up the lovely floor, and we had to pay for the floor. So I learned my lesson the hard way. I accepted Michael's way very easily.
yeah. I mean, I have absolute. In fact, I'm 100% for the shoes getting lighter and lighter and lighter.
Lovely. Yeah, yeah.
Because I think girls in the lovely costumes, and then you look down and the shoes are. I'm all. Do you remember Celine Hession used to always wear the little blue?
Celine stayed with me. Yes,
And
yes.
you're there and you're looking at Celine from as a child, and you're watching her dancing, and you're saying to yourself, why are we wearing these heavy shoes? And Celine is wearing a little, and we're looking, and you're thinking, maybe when I'm older now, I'm going to be able to wear those little heels. But you never did in competition. They were always.
No, I'm sure we had nowadays we have to make sure they don't even have a bubble on the heel in Coltus, not in the commission, but yes, in Coltus. So there's
Yeah.
no, and the other thing I miss is the fact that the beautiful dresses were handmade, and that art form has been lost.
I think so. I love the costumes now, but I think that they should. I was looking at her, isn't she gorgeous?
Well, we teach the kids how to even do that.
Isn't that lovely? Because it is an art form that's lost. Being lost.
It really is, and it's well worthwhile to pass that on to the next generation.
Oh, Helen, there's no reason why the solo costumes now, as beautiful as they are and as magnificently made as they are, couldn't have at least some traditional influence, like imagery from the Book of Kells, the dragons, as you have there,
Or
and
even,
still be
even the
contemporary.
even the little bit of crochet to teach the kids how to do that. And now we have a program at the university here that a traditional art form, the artist, the master artist can be paid if there's an apprentice out there who really wants to embellish the art form and pass it on. And it's a wonderful program because I think we will lose a lot of that as we progress.
And as you know, we in Limerick, oh, I suppose it would have died out when I was a child, but you still see the work that was done by the nuns in the Good Shepherd Convent and the face, and their eyesight must have actually been destroyed because of the delicacy of the lace work.
Well, PJ theory on the Book of Kells is that only the nearsighted monks were allowed to do the
That's right, yeah.
colouring. Yeah, so far. Yeah.
The detail on it, and I don't see why. I know it would take longer and all that, but I don't see why there shouldn't be some Celtic throwback to. I was talking to the boys the other day, Corja, the boys who have gone viral on the internet A few of them are from Celine Hession and Helen Green and other schools. And I was, we were talking about the fact that they're using the Wild Atlantic Way as a backdrop for all their videos, and they're hoping to do a show. And I said, please just hold on to what is Irish and show how it's progressed if you want to, but always show it against a backdrop of the traditional and
Love
and
it, love
and
it.
backdrop of what hasn't changed for thousands of years, like the Burren, Allowee
Oh,
Caves, the Cliffs of Moher, places like that. Show that as a background and say we started as, and this is the progression of Irish dance, but this is untouched.
right,
This
right.
is Ireland in its most untouched, and we're bringing you the progress of Irish dance.
That's why I give a lot of credit to Coltus, because the people that are in Coltus, my Coltus family, if you like, they all appreciate the basics of life and the handwork. Remember when we had the long evenings and no light, and you had to find something to do. So my sister, who lives in Shannon, does a lot of knitting, and you'd be surprised at how people are awed by the fact that somebody can knit. Many of the parents in my own school would ask where would they go to turn up the hem of their uniform. They would not know how to sew.
Who is your sister in Shannon? Because
Uh,
what my colleague here is from Shannon via Cork.
Harry, yeah. And my sister lives in Tullivarga there, right by St. John and Paul. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and her name is
And Goran.
Goran.
Yeah, well, I suppose you'd say Gochran. Yeah, Goran. Yeah,
I never heard the name.
yeah.
But
She does,
yeah,
she does the
my,
knitting.
my
He-
colleague here is from Shannon, but he's originally from Mallow.
All right. I remember him from when he was doing the show one day, and I saw St. Coleman's in the background. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Oh, look, he's a diehard. He always says Irish by birth, Cork by the grace of God.
Right. Well, I told you in an email, I think, that cathedral, the exact image in St. Louis. So if you ever come to St. Louis, the plans were brought over from Cove for that.
Wow.
And it was built on the St. Louis University campus, and it's an exact copy of St. Coleman's. Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a lot of connections with Ireland. And W.B. Yeats was here at the World's Fair in 1904.
My favorite poet.
Is he your favorite poet? Well,
Favorite Irish poet.
one of our sons happens to live in the house, which was the Irish village in the World's Fair in 1904. And so I have the book that Mr. Yeats read from. Yeah. Can you believe that? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I love Yeats poetry. Someone asked me there one time, would I start doing maybe a little video every now and again of Yeats poems?
We
But
would all appreciate that, because it's a legend. At the moment here, we're doing 3 nights on Ernest Hemingway, who was also
fabulous,
huge,
fabulous.
popular, and lived in St. Louis. So there's a lot of connections there. You're advertising a lot of good things about St. Louis this morning.
There you go. I'm open to be employed by the St. Louis Tourism Board.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
But the thing about it is, you were a nurse here in Ireland, and you married. He became a doctor, and he moved to the United States working, and that's how you decided to move as well.
Well, we were married in Ireland, and
Yeah, that
we
was hard.
did his residency in London, and
Yeah.
we had the opportunity to do a 1-year research project in St. Louis. And so we had a 3-year-old. I was expecting another one, and we had $50 and 4 suitcases. And we arrived in the month of August, and nobody warned me about the heat. I would have called the child humidity Gannon. I was desperate. I had no idea, and all of the things I could have in America meant nothing anymore. I wanted Limerick.
It was
I
like that song, The Isle of Innisfree, for though they paved the footways here with gold dust, I still would choose the Isle of
for me.
Innisfree.
Because it was temporary, I was fairly content to put up with it. But then they liked PJ a lot in the university, and they wanted him to stay, and they offered him more money. And in 1975, he applied for the professorship in Galway, where he had done his medical training. And that same year, we lost our fourth son, Patrick.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry.
suddenly I didn't want to leave St. Louis because he was here. And so that's what changed my life.
That's amazing. I can understand that perfectly.
So that changed my life, and we stayed. And our son is a doctor now. He's actually gone out to Africa next week again. We have a hospital out there that my son's built, and so life has been interesting but wonderful.
Isn't it amazing how life throws you
Curve, yes.
and the curveballs that it throws you very often is in the right direction.
You're right. You're right, Mary. And we don't realize it at the time, but that's well said.
But I'm waiting for the curveball to be thrown at me that's actually going to be just the right one for me. It's just sometimes I get thrown curveballs that are never right.
Right.
Do you know? But
well, the diversity in America has taught me a lot. And of course, I'm sure you know that I was 47 years old when after Patrick died. I didn't want to do dancing anymore or midwifery anymore. So I was 47 when I got my TCRG.
I think that is just extraordinary. I'm just thinking, well, I was 20, what was I, 22 when I did my TC, and it was 2000, I think it was when I did the AD. But, it's just, that's 47. That is just an amazing thing to do at that age. To actually say that's it. It says a lot about you as a person, Helen.
Well, it was
ages.
I wouldn't want to go off the air without giving kudos to Maureen Hall, who was from Cork. She was on Taggart's down there, and she took me in hands. And boy, she made sure that I wouldn't come back without it. So it changed my life.
What did you find the hardest in doing the exam? Because I would imagine the books and that were not difficult for you because you had been.
Yeah, the dancing was the most difficult. And she'd drive in about every 6 months and she'd say, "You're useless," she'd say. I'd be back in 6 months. And so she's gone to heaven now, but it's people in your life, you don't realize the connection of people in your life until something, and like you said earlier on in the show, the curves that come are in the right direction, but we don't recognize them at the time in the right direction.
I mean, you went to America, you always thought you were going to return home and to live. This was never, I mean, my mom went to England and she ran out of it after 5 years because she didn't have Irish dancing, or she didn't have an Irish community around her. And she was so homesick for Ireland that she just could not settle, no matter how nice people were, could not settle. And that's why I think these shows are important to me, because it's my way, I suppose, of, I think, trying to help people who have decided to move abroad, that especially with COVID, to try and settle in for another day, because they may have just got to America or Australia when COVID struck. They haven't made connections, but through the shows, they can feel a sense of home.
Well, Mary, I need to get you up to the Dáil in Ireland and to over here to our Senate, because I have a young lady from Clare who is a world champion both on fiddle, singing and dancing, and she's a TCRG. And to try and get a visa for her is very, very difficult. So you're doing a good service when you expose some of the needs that we have. St. Louis would have maybe 1% first generation Irish. And so our need is very great for the master artists to come and help us. And so we adore getting somebody from Ireland to give us some of the traditions and the hands-on for the children. There's over 40 million Americans with Irish heritage. So they're very open to the kind of show that you have on and to receive interesting information. Everybody has a connection to Ireland.
The thing about it is, I suppose our aim, I was talking to a man the other day he's Irish, and he's a director of the Ireland London Association, and he was saying the same thing. They have a very big organization there where they look after the elderly and they look after people who have moved to London, and I was thinking, that there's places all over the world, in America and all over, who are just, they love where they work like you. They love the country. It's giving them everything except a sense of home. Right. And if they can just even have somebody that they can come on and talk about their life in Missouri, and tell me their story, that'll help them get through on the next day.
It's a privilege for me to be on this show, and of course the fact that the radio shows in my hometown is a plus.
Yeah, so it's a hard struggle for us, Helen, because we were only starting off when COVID struck. We were hoping that we'd be getting advertising and sponsorships and going around to companies looking for advertising and sponsorships. Everything closed down in Limerick. We're in stage 5 lockdown since before Christmas, well before Christmas. You're not allowed visitors to your home. Every time you ring up somebody, they're working from home and they're not answering their phones. So we're there with minimal amount of equipment, no potential of building it up. So all we can do at the moment is do them and then take them away and edit them and and it takes about 2 hours to edit each show. And I'm doing all the editing for the shows because I sat down, a bit like Michael Flatley, I suppose. I sat down and struggled away until I could learn how to do these things myself. But we can't do anything because we can't get to companies to promote or to sponsor or anything like that. But our aim is that we are a station for the diaspora, because I feel the diaspora needs it, and they need it more now than they ever needed.
Absolutely. Are you aware, Mary, of the Fleadh Fest, which will happen in August in Ireland?
Oh yeah. The Fleadh
So one of our North American branches now will be sending in a little bit of material, and that creates what you're doing is the diaspora gets to see parts of the rest of the world. So
I'd love to interview some of your musicians and some people from the community, the Irish community, who have moved to St. Louis or have been there for a long time, to tell their stories, and that they feel that they have some sense of home, that they're speaking to somebody with an Irish accent, and that they're speaking, they're actually for us an hour of a day, that there are an hour they're talking to somebody and they feel they're at home. It helps you to get through that extra day.
Great things are happening. I probably shouldn't say this, but my brother in Limerick now doesn't use the internet, and so it has created a huge distance for us. while I complain about it, I wish now that I could talk to him on Facebook or even email, but he doesn't, because he's real Limerick the way it was.
Yeah.
What did we do when we didn't have it? We had no phone in where I grew up in Limerick. And I think my sister waited 2 years for a phone. But now I'm very angry with the kids with the gadgets. And I get very upset. And they'd say to me, but I want to tape my tunes. And you see, I'm now having to teach on Zoom. So now I wish that I had learned more. And the only thing I can say is that I have now realized that what I got in school in Limerick has lasted me much more than the new technology, like the sewing and the cooking and the knitting. And I often wish that I could type, but my handwriting is excellent because I was taught how to write properly. So I have a lot of pluses now.
But the good old nuns, I have to say, they really taught us how to write. I can still remember in senior infants, and they taught you between lines, and you had to bring the first letter up to the line and down to the line, and the next letter had to go right into the middle, and if it went even fractionally above the middle, you were docked marks. And yeah, my writing would be very good now, I have to say. But
I think when you go away, you get an opportunity to appreciate them even more. My training as a nurse in Galway was fantastic, and I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And it was the nuns again. We criticized the nuns, but they had no stress in their life, only to pound on us.
I've never criticized the nuns, because I think if the nuns were in hospitals today, there'd be no MRSA, there'd be no diseases and the hygiene. We had a hospital near us, St. John's Hospital, and there was a nun, and she was very old when I was a child, and her name was Sister Basil or Brazel. I'm not quite sure, but she knew how to rip a plaster off in seconds. She'd say what, she'd focus you off something, and the plaster was taken off in a second, and you daren't cry. But they were immaculate, and the hospitals were just immaculate. No such thing as having to hire people from outside to come in and clean, and they're half dusting radiators.
Actually has taken her final profession vows here in America. And we have another student who is in his final year of the priesthood. So we're not doing too bad, even though we have a lot of the fancy things of life.
You're a recruitment agency for the religious.
Well, like yourself, Mary, I love the traditions. I love the basic things of life. And I always live below my means, and I feel rich.
Well, I wish I could do that, Helen. I'm a typical only child. I never think money is going to go out of fashion. If I have 10 euros in my pocket, I'm thinking, how am I going to spend that? What am I going to buy? But that can't stay there. I know I live way beyond my means. Always have.
Well,
I wish I could be sensible and pragmatic, Helen. I really do.
I ask my kids to live below their means, but we've been very fortunate. One of our sons is a doctor. One of them is an engineer. We call him the spy. And then Eileen is the harp teacher, and she does just as well. But I think that the one that's a doctor worked harder for less money than the one who's in finance. So life can be, as long as you're happy in what you do, that is, I think, my motto for the younger generation, to be happy in what you do.
I would love to play the harp. That is my biggest regret. Having gone through 14 years as principal dancer in Bunratty for a lot of the years, having gone through that, I used to look. There were times when I used to look and think, God, should have taken up the harp because it looked so elegant and so. And my poor mother, she was living here with me on our own until Daddy could come back after years. And she said to me one day, "If you're very good, Mary, I'll buy you a harp." She'd do anything to try and bribe me. And I could not have been. I can still remember how good I was. I was crawling to her all for a whole week, and she appeared with this thing for my coat for St. Patrick's Day. It was the harp. Do you know the? We were on completely different wavelengths. She said to her friends, "Did she think that we had money or something?" Because clearly, I was thinking we were loaded, and we just had half my father's wages because he had to give the other half up to his mother in England. He didn't have to, but he wanted to. And I thought we were loaded, and I thought it was going to be Mary O'Hara, the harpist.
Right. Oh, Mary O'Hara, yes.
But I ended up with this thing. I can still remember crying for days because I got a thing of her. I thought I was getting the full-size harp.
I started out, when we came, I wanted my kids to know the music so that when we would move back to Ireland, they'd be proficient on the instrument. And Dr. Suzuki was my God. He was my absolute God. Listen and learn. And so we had the opportunity to meet him when he came to America. Yes. And it was just amazing. And then Maureen Nicosi, one of your famous harpers, was staying with me. And I thought, gee, I'd like to have a harp just like Mary wanted one. And so I put Eileen on the harp, and she had been playing fiddle. And it worked well. And it was a wonderful thing for her because her teacher said she would only teach her if I gave up the fiddle for her. And she gave me good advice, and that's what happened. So Eileen won the All-Ireland in 2002. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how if you have several children, the practical thing is to send one to the harp, send one to the piano, send one to the guitar, send somebody else to dancing, and they all teach each other.
Well, the advice I would give to the parents on that, with the experience I've had, is that if you overload them with too much, the stress is too much for them. So we need them to just do one.
Give each child a different instrument, and and they'll all learn from each other, from watching or from. They say the piano is the best instrument to start with because you play the piano, you can play anything else.
Right. And teach them how to change a tire.
Do you change a tire?
Well, PJ bought this insurance for me, and I got a flat tire. Sure, my father had shown me how to do it. So I came home in a mess, and he said, "Did you call the company?" I said, "No, I changed it myself." And now I think to myself, wasn't I great to be able to change a tire?
You were amazing. I would stand on the side of the road and look like a natural blonde. Wait until somebody would stop, and I'd get an Oscar for looking pathetic at the side of the road until somebody would actually stop.
Back on those things, I wouldn't do it today.
Imagine those tiny hands. Could you imagine them? And at 4'10", trying to wheel would be gone off by the time I'd get to 100 yards down the road.
Right. Yeah. Well, life was good in both places. And to appreciate it. And so your show really is a gift to us over here. And you may not know that, Mary, but for Limerick, in this way, I listen to your show in the afternoon here, and you may not realize that, but I want to give you a compliment for that, because it's a connection for us. It's a connection to home, and it keeps us it gives us some joy in our life to be able to connect with you. So it's good for me to say that to your audience, how important it is to us.
Oh, well, thank you so much. But I think probably because I was born in the UK and loved every minute of the UK because my grandparents were there, and I was spoiled rotten. And that mum was afraid of me being spoiled, so being an only child, and brought me back. But I think if she had had something like this, that
Right.
she could have just gone and seen, or if she had Coltus near her, even though she wasn't a dancer, my mum had a limp. She had a dislocated hip all her life that never was put back in. But she was a singer. She was a soprano, and she was a Gaeilgeoir, so she spoke fluent Irish. All that was gone when she went to England, and she was around only Welsh people. And I think if she had had some connection with Ireland, that she could have spoken to somebody on the phone that was Irish every day, or gone to an Irish club, or made friends, she might have settled in. But, and I think that's why the show means so much to me, is to try and help that.
It's obvious you love doing it, and that makes a big difference too. Yeah,
I do. I'd like it to be at a stage where I could interview people all the time who were abroad, who just wanted some connection, who weren't necessarily in our community of Irish dancing, but people who just want to tell their story, people who just want to hear somebody, or that our shows could go out in some club in Washington or Missouri or Sydney, and that people could go there during the day and just listen to, who may not be able to get, like your brother, who aren't into the computers, but can actually go and hear our show or we can put on shows and they can listen to them and sit down and enjoy it and kill a few hours.
You've had people that that I've recognized from Australia, and you've had, you have that connection, and it's wonderful because we are scattered, as you said.
We're scattered, and we're a wide ranging organization, but we're very small when it comes to it. You're in Missouri, I'm here in Limerick, and we can still sit down and have a conversation about our shared passion.
I need to stop bitching about the internet and the kids, because here I am praising it and enjoying every minute of it.
You're obviously able to get to the hairdressers, which we're not able to do.
We are.
Your hair is lovely.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you. We are able to do that, and to get outside. We have lovely weather at the minute, and so it's wonderful to be able to go out and sit in the sun for a few minutes every day. So I'm still hoping that maybe in October, or maybe we might be able to make a trip home.
But the joke of it here in Ireland, Helen, is that a hairdresser can go to her GP, and you'll appreciate this. A hairdresser can go to her doctor, but her doctor can't go to the hairdresser.
Right. That's an interesting analogy. Yeah.
It just makes no sense.
Right.
People
but you've done better.
Pardon?
Yeah. You've done well with the numbers.
They're still letting in flights constantly. Flights coming in and going, and yet everybody else has to be in quarantine. And 10,000 flew in last week into Dublin Airport, and yet I don't understand it. I just don't understand. We're a little island out in the Atlantic Ocean with no connection to any other country other than by plane or ferry. Why couldn't they have closed up everything like that and left everybody free to move around Ireland and basically create this island bubble?
Right, and have herd immunity just for the island.
for
Yes.
the island. And
Right. Yeah.
that would have been, but I'm not, I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, but, and I just think very simply, but I'm just saying that the rationale, why leave people in when there's already people quarantining and you're a medical person?
That is a pity. Yeah.
It just makes no sense. New Zealand did it right. They closed all the borders. I was speaking with somebody the other day on a show, and he's from Hawaii, and he said that they closed down all the flights into Hawaii, into Honolulu, but everybody is free to do what they like on the island. They've bubbled on the island. Why couldn't Ireland have done that?
Right. Yeah. It's a pity.
I mean, I just don't understand the rationale behind it.
Vaccine, Mary.
Pardon?
You had your vaccine.
No, we haven't. We haven't. They hadn't enough vaccines.
Oh.
They applied to Britain to ask the English government if they could give them some vaccines, because the English government did it right. They ordered in their own vaccines and they got their own amount of vaccines. Ireland has to wait until Europe decides how many vaccines they get, and I'm a bit nervous about the vaccine, to be frank with you, because anytime I've ever had the flu vaccine, I've ended up in hospital because I'm asthmatic, and I've ended up on nebulizers and steroids and oxygen. So I'm kind of worried about it, but I don't know what to do.
Have it. Have to take the vaccine.
Did you get it?
Oh, yes. Yeah. My sister in Ireland was a little bit squeamish too, but if everybody doesn't get it, we won't get herd immunity. So it's really important. The people who won't get it will be the people that'll spread it. So
I'm just worried about the fact that it was created and it was designed so quickly. And I don't know that there has been enough time for it to see, for us to see. That's my biggest worry.
Yeah, I feel it has been tested to the max, and I would recommend it for everybody, absolutely. And hopefully the children will get it soon and we'll get them back in the classroom. The mothers are suffering so much right now.
Helen, it's terrible. It's terrible.
My next door neighbor here now, she has 3 kids and she has them in 3 different rooms, and she can't work because she has to be home to make sure that they're doing their lessons. And so the family is disrupted. The marriage suffers because the mother is aggravated. And it's really difficult, really difficult.
What I can't understand is governments go on about, and you see it here in Ireland all the time, stay home, stay safe. But what if home isn't where you're safe? If home is where the abuse is happening, where home is where you're isolated, and outside is the only place that you can actually maybe access help and support from a teacher or from a friend or a friend's parent, or if your wife or if you're a woman or a man who's been abused by your partner, if home isn't the safe place for you, you're trapped.
That's right.
And as well as that, for children who don't speak, whose English is the second language, and a parent is trying to teach them at home a language that they don't understand themselves, homeschooling isn't for everyone.
Oh no, and in fact, I don't recommend homeschooling. I think it's really important that they be in the classroom with their peers.
I do.
Yeah, it's really important. My physician son had COVID. His son had COVID. I have 2 African grandchildren, 2 Guatemalan grandchildren, and 2 homegrown ones. And 2 of them have had COVID. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh gosh. Children.
Yeah. Yes. Well, they're in college now.
Okay,
they're in college now. And my granddaughter, who's in Boston College in nurses training to be a nurse, she went shopping the day before they took her back to college. And by the time she got back, she was positive. So she's in quarantine right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, where to now for Helen Gannon once once everything gets back to normal?
Gannon is going to retire.
I that.
I am.
Are you?
I am, yeah. I've decided that I need to take care of PJ. So this will be my last year teaching in the school. I'll be a volunteer, but I'm going to have to stay home and take care of my wonderful husband of 57 years.
Wow.
So I think that
you'd serve 3 life sentences.
I have. And he's from Galway, and so his sister is there in the farm, and we'd hope to go over and see her. But it's a full-time job for me now. We're in this big house, and we have, out of 4 suitcases 50 years ago, I don't know where we got all this stuff, but we have it full. This big house is full.
And all the books you had.
Well, my library here is going to go to the University of Missouri. I have an Irish library that is very complete, and that we have a chair of Irish studies, thanks to Michael Smurfett here in St. Louis, and this library will be donated to their library. So life is good. I think we have contributed some, and St. Louis has certainly been a good stop for us. And to be, again, I'm going to say to you, having these connections is magic.
It is for me as well, because I'm on my own as well at home. And, I suppose that's the one thing that you learn from Irish dancing, and I suppose learn from being an only child as well, is to find ways of occupying yourself, and realizing that other people are in the same boat.
Absolutely.
Especially people who are so used to being around people and having lots of people around them, are finding it much harder in COVID lockdown, because they're not used to being on their own. They don't like their own company, or they don't know how to cope with their own company.
Right. Yeah.
If they can listen to a show like this, they feel they're sitting with Helen Gannon inside in her sitting room.
And it's great. It lifts us up. And life is good if you can hang on to those little things during the lockdown. And please God, we'll all be out of it by, I'd say, at least another year. But we'll be wearing masks, I'd say, for a couple of years. When I was in China, everybody wore masks. I think we're headed in that direction.
But Helen, is there any sense of wearing masks out in the street?
Yes.
You're a medical person.
Yes.
How are you supposed to breathe in oxygen and leave out carbon dioxide?
Well, it certainly has worked. The proof is in the pudding. It has decreased. My children even wear masks when they come into the house. Yeah, I believe in masks. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really do. And I have some misgivings about the protests against the masks and the limitations, because we, like you said earlier on, if we had just stopped everything, we'd be clean now. But we don't know all the answers to it. We don't know all the answers. Do you remember when we had TB? I remember families were wiped out in Ireland for TB, and we didn't know about the masks then.
His cousin had TB, and he spent 6 months in Glanmire.
In the sanatorium, yeah.
Sanatorium. And all he wanted to be was a surgeon. And he said, because his family were fitters and welders, and that he said they laughed at him when he said, we're not the type of people that become surgeons, that's for rich people and everything like that. And it always plagued him all his life, because he read and read. He was the most learned man I've ever met. come across, and I adored him, my Uncle George, and I dedicated my PhD to him.
Mary,
Pardon?
you die from it?
No, he died many, many years later, but he was always frail. His whole life was frail, but he smoked like a chimney.
Well,
Um, it didn't help, but I adored him,
yeah.
and he just he was my mother's first cousin, but he was like an uncle to me, and I adored him. But he was always sick because of his TB. But a more cantankerous man you never in your life came across.
Oh, right.
But he had words at will. If somebody said something to him, he could just
Right.
put them in their place with just one word, and he never had to raise his voice. I always admired that.
Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, but yeah. So Helen, it was just extraordinary talking to you again.
I loved it. I loved it. Thank you, and best wishes to you and your career, and to
Oh,
all the people of Limerick. It's one of the it's a special place in Ireland, and
and you, and you,
I should get an award for tourism, because I had 42 signed up to bring to the Fleadh this year, which we had to cancel again. But please God, next year, that's the icing on the cake, you see, for what I do. If they learn their tunes and they qualify to enter the Fleadh, we take them back to Scollexia, and that's where they get a taste of the whole island. It's not enough to play the music. I have to take them there so they can enjoy the island itself. So,
and you would suggest that at the very start, you started this whole interview by saying that you, or chat, by saying that you thought that there should be a more cohesive
absolutely.
between An Comisiún and Comhaltas. Do you still believe that, and how do you believe that that can be?
Well,
Because we're all learning, Helen, we're all learning from each other now through these shows and through other shows and through people coming on and doing steps, and everybody, and there's no such thing as, for a long time in dancing and competitions, you couldn't video or anything because people, I suppose, were cautious of their steps. When people learn steps anyway by just watching someone on a stage, they pick up things. I think we're learning to be more communicative, and
I'll make it simply for you, Mary. Today, our dancing is so professional and so high profile that when we have championship dancing here in North America, there's probably 5 musicians that would be capable of playing for those competitions because of the intricacy and because of the tempo of the music. So who is going to take care of training the young musicians? I myself am self-sufficient now with fresh musicians, and we've turned out about 7 that can play for championship. But that is the big void, is that where will we get the live music? Technology got ahead of us, and the kids now would rather have the CD than to have a live musician. That's how sad it is, because they know that the tempo is exact. And you know from your own dancing, you played to whatever the musician played. If he was too fast, you danced fast. But
Annie Benson.
Huh?
You remember Annie Benson? Was she there? She would have been much younger, say. She used to play over in O'Rourke School of Dancing, and she used to sit in the windowsill, and she'd have the accordion on her lap, and she'd play away. She was about, if she wasn't 80, we always thought she was around 80 at the time, because she was, so much older than us, and she was a small little woman, and she'd sit on top of the windowsill over in O'Rourke. And she'd play, and she had a rag tied around her thumb, and so that a cloth, and she'd thumb, and she'd play away, and you'd never forget the feeling that it was to dance to Annie Benson.
Well, Maureen O'Rourke, or Maureen Ivren, as known, all her children learned to play as well as dance.
Yeah.
And it's a rarity. It's very much a rarity. But my wish is that through people like yourself, that we can get the word out there. And my husband's theory is there's only two things you can do all your life. Forget about the dancing when you get to my age. You can play golf and music, and that's it.
Well, or sing.
Or sing. I forgot about that. Or sing. There you go. Yeah. It was a pleasure for me today, Mary.
I tried to get you on for so long, and I have no idea how I got the dates mixed up the last time.
That's all right.
And I don't even think I was doing anything that day. I just think that I had so many shows juggling, and I put everything into the phone. And sometimes you think you're putting it in under the date, and you're putting it in under the time instead, and it goes in on the wrong day. And I think that's what I did. I thought I put it in on the correct date, but I put it in under a completely different date, and I have no idea how that happened, and I was so embarrassed because I was so looking forward to interviewing you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy being talking.
You're very bad at looking at your private messages.
My private messages, is that on Facebook?
Yeah, because you put your telephone number up on your public page for everyone to see.
Oh.
So you'd need to take it down. Or anyone who you don't want to ring you might be ringing you.
I'm a real annoyance on the technology. I'm having a hard time with all this Zoom, but I'm learning. And I know that I have to adapt to it, but having the one-on-one is so wonderful. So wonderful.
Yeah. And I have your phone number now. I can give you a buzz.
Yeah, thank you, Mary, very much. And thank you to all the people of Limerick. I hope I'll be back there soon.
You will indeed. And look after PJ, isn't it?
PJ, yeah.
And look after PJ.
Here's another thing. He's a retired doctor, but he can teach the harmonica. He's had 2 All-Ireland winners.
You told me that before.
Yeah, the next time we're on, I'll have him play for you.
Oh, yeah. You should have brought him on.
Well, it's a bit early here for him. The breakfast here is in the afternoon.
What time is it here? It's 14 minutes past 4.
That's 14 minutes past 10 for me.
10 for you. Well, Helen, thank you again.
Thank you
very much. Shindera Leishon Clár, that's the end of the show for today. Until the next time, Lacuna Day. Bwalam tu galer chiacana, sonus agus gra, agus gadeish of Sloan. Sloan, Helen.